Yo, guys, what's up? And welcome back to the Marvelous Chats podcast. This is episode 126. Surrounding the cast is myself, Finto, and Alex, aka Zaberwolf. We're going to be going through a full breakdown of Dune Part 2. Alex's first time seeing Dune Part 1, so we'll talk about both movies and any other nerdy news from the week. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the like button, drop us a follow if you're new, and leave us a comment below. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple or any of them, maybe leave a review and share the cast around. It would really help us out. So without further ado, here we go. Yo, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, bud?
How are you?
Doing all right. I'm actually, excuse me, I'm actually getting better.
Oh, yeah, you were
That,
saying you got put on some new meds or something, did you?
yeah, like luckily I didn't have pneumonia or anything because
Thank
I
fuck
went,
for that.
dude, I went the first time. They're like, it's probably maybe it's just acid reflux or something. Maybe you just take this medication. If it doesn't get better, to come back. And so I went back, and they're like, um, yeah. So the reason why they give that is because maybe you're like trying to cough up stuff, and then it's just causing irritation. And so because I was like, I've never really thought I had acid reflux.
Yeah.
But then I they take a look and they listen to my breathing and they're like, I don't hear any wheezing. I don't think it's anything in particular. They're
Mhm.
like, I have a low suspicion that it's pneumonia. And I'm like, well, shit. And it's like, what can you do about that? And they're like, well, we could do an x-ray. And I said, how much does that cost? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I have insurance. I just want to know, like, how much does that
Yeah.
usually cost? And
America. I'd be scared too, bro. I'd be asking, how much, please, sir?
yeah. So I said I can afford it. It's fine. I just wanted to know because the doctor's
Mhm.
like, I can't say. And I'm assuming that's just because, like, depending on your coverage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
It's probably different prices for different people, which is very fucked up as well, but we won't go
right.
there.
Yeah. So did the x-ray, came back. They're like, good news, no pneumonia. They're like, I think it's just a progressive cough. You're just experiencing that. It's gonna take you a couple months.
Mhm.
So they put me on prednisone, which I think is a steroid.
Right.
They're like, it'll speed up the process of you
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
you recovering. And then they gave me some like promethazine for like really suppressing it. And dude, I don't know if you've ever taken promethazine, but the moment it touches your tongue, it goes like numb.
Wow. So
It's
it's
strong
fucking
shit.
strong shit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That's good though. I'm glad you're on the mend. Like, and sometimes you just need a steroid to just kick your body's ass, like, and get you back on track. Like, so fingers
It
crossed,
is.
you'll be good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm much better now. Like I don't feel
Great.
the irritation anymore. I'm feeling great.
I'd say you feel like a new man because I know I sometimes suffer pretty badly with coughs where they might hang around for a couple of weeks. I know when I started going out with my girlfriend, like, remember the first time I had like a pretty bad cough, she was like, you've been coughing for a couple of weeks now, and I'm just kind of, it's kind of the norm for me. I just didn't even think about it, and then like I was kind of like, oh yeah, I actually have. And it's not until you kind of go and get that shit looked at, and you're like, oh okay, right, okay, I need to go on something or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, look, it is, you're on the mend, which is great. Guys, I appreciate everybody who's hanging out with us live. I know as well. There was a bit of a kind of fuck up with daylight savings times. Myself and Alex are on opposite sides of the world here, and he had his daylight savings. So Alex messaged me this morning. I got it really early this morning. I was kind of thinking like, oh, that's weird. You're up real early. It obviously makes more sense now as well. Like there was you were an hour back behind. I thought you were up real late, like, because I was up early this morning, and yeah,
Yeah.
basically just asked me to push the cast forward an hour. I did that, but not realizing that naturally time had pushed forward an hour as well. So we're actually 2 hours late technically for
Yeah.
poor Alex here. So
Sorry about that.
yeah, it's an hour for the EU guys, but 2 hours for anybody who's on the West Coast. So I apologize, guys. If you're listening to this on the replay, it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's all the same to you. Andre, what's up, dude? How are you? Um, so yeah, look, let's just dive kind of straight in. It's probably going to be a bit of a short podcast this week because there's not really a massive amount to talk about. We'll talk about Doom Part 1 and 2, and then I've got like I watched a good video on like kind of some whispers about the Ray Skywalker movie. We might maybe talk about that, and then we could do a little bit of an anime kind of chat as well. There was some big anime news this week as well. The was it the Dragon Ball dude died, the creator of Dragon Ball or something? Was it Dragon Ball or I
Yeah,
can't remember.
we'll move into that.
Yeah, so again, Alex, you can take the reins for that one. I'll do a little switcheroo when when that topic comes up because I know fuck all about it. I just saw a lot of people giving their condolences to the poor man online. So I even saw some people like kind of making jokes like, I see more people talking about this than the death of Queen Elizabeth. So That's pretty significant. Like the dude obviously made an impact in the anime world, so maybe you can catch our listeners up on that. Um, yeah, Dune Part One, bro. Talk to me. What did you think? Because I know you're going in brand new. Did you see? You didn't see the original, right? That was like your first kind of step into the Dune world, if I'm not mistaken. Was it?
Right. Yeah. I've not seen the original at all.
Yeah,
I know I don't really remember the cast too much, but I could have sworn I saw Sir Patrick Stewart was in it
yeah, he
in
was
the
in the
original.
in 80 at the 84 one. Yeah,
Yeah. So like I'm aware of that, so maybe I'll go back and check that out. But yeah, I haven't been exposed to like the books or anything like in the social media. Like I haven't really been watching anything in particular.
yeah,
And when I took a look at it, I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm kind of tired of Star Wars right now. I don't really want to get into space
yeah,
filming again. Like it seems to be breaking my heart right now because I just want something that's cool.
yeah.
Um and so I watched this and I would say the first part, it's okay.
Mhm.
It was a big huge information dump, which I totally
Yeah,
understand because it's going to play off from the books itself.
hmm,
And it's rightly so because you really need to understand everything that's going on, why they're the plot exists
yeah,
and why these characters matter.
hmm,
So like essentially, you have the House Atreides, you have the other various houses, which I don't know the names of other than Harkonnen.
hmm,
And so those are the two that are like the main focus of the story, in which case like um the emperor essentially makes it so that the house Harkonnen is going to take over Arrakis instead of Atreides, but in the form of like a double crossing in the sense,
yeah,
which I think is a really cool idea. But I know we've seen that in the past, but the way that they executed was actually pretty fun.
yeah,
Um, Considering like I from what I understand, Leto Atreides, which is the father of Paul, who's Paul is the main character.
hmm,
He's aware that something's going to happen, but he kind of like overlooks it,
yeah,
uh, because his heart is in a different spot, and that's the whole point. Is like the House of Atreides is of a different mindset compared to
yeah.
the Emperor and his ways. I
Exactly. Yeah,
think I think that works pretty well. Like it's so good that they give you a good info dump. And it's not like boring either. It's very like dramatic in the sense like it gives you a lot to think about.
hmm,
Um but it will fly through your head like quickly. So
yeah,
you might need to go back a couple times. So I would say like if you haven't started Dune part 1 and part 2, you have plenty of time to like take in part 1 before you go into part 2 because then part 2 will make much more sense.
yeah,
Um but yeah, like it just part 1 fun. Like it wasn't like super exciting. Like it's like I said, it's a very informational part to the film series.
yeah.
I believe part 1 and 2 are a single book, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
So yeah,
My
we'll
my
have to.
knowledge, my knowledge, just to put this out there for anybody who doesn't know, but my knowledge of Dune is similar to yours. Like I've seen the remakes and that's it. I've never read any books. I didn't see the original movie either, so I'm very blind, very newbie to this world. So I'm in a similar position to you. The only difference is that I've seen the first movie twice, and the
Gotcha.
I only went to we only saw the new one yesterday. So yeah, it's very fresh. It's very fresh.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So because I was able to watch part 1 at home, I actually had
Yeah.
it at 1.25 speed because I knew that it was going to be an information dump.
Nice.
Like I was just like, you
Look
know
at you
what?
hacking.
I
Speed running the movie.
exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, but the
I do
moment
that
they
with
start
podcasts.
talking, yeah,
Yeah.
like because you know that there's going to be these moments where kind of like what we're doing right now, where we have so much to talk about,
Yeah.
and once you reach a point where it's something that you're actually interested in, that's when you slow it down, right?
For me, I actually just leave it. So I know
Oh,
when I was watching Demon Slayer, I watched the whole show on 1.5 speed. And I actually what was kind of funny when I watched the movie a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to the dubs, the voices at one speed, and it felt like kind of weird to me because I'm more used to them speaking a bit quicker, and it kind of
mhm.
changes the tones of their voices a bit. Like if I go back and re-listen to us to grab clips and stuff, I listen to us on 1.5 as well, or
Oh, nice.
sometimes two, because again, I know the two of our voices, so it's kind of easier to pick it up. But if I'm listening to a podcast like a Joe Rogan or something, I can't go any higher than 1.5, especially if like somebody talks quickly already because I find
Mhm.
it just it goes too fast, and I'm not really listening. I kind of zone out a bit or something. So, but yeah, 1.5 is very doable.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, basically kept it at that speed for a while. I only, like, slowed it down a bit when I really wanted to pay attention to certain points of information
mhm.
that I felt were very important to understand.
Yeah,
Uh, like the Baron, which, like, a lot of the dialogue that he has is very important,
yeah, and
concerning Paul.
he talks kind of strange as well, right?
Well, I mean, it's still Stellan's voice, but it's just at a much deeper tone. It's kinda
Yeah,
close to when he was, like Bootstrap Bill from Pirates of the Caribbean. Kind of has that like lower kind of deeper voice kind of
yeah,
feeling to it, which I think it works really well, especially because he's like a heavy set character.
right.
Um, very much it seems to be in the ways of like telekinesis because you can't tell if he's sitting on anything.
True, true.
Which I think is really interesting because then it shows like there's powers to be that we're not really explained about that aren't really explained about in the movie itself. It's just like, oh, this guy can literally just float around and do stuff.
I haven't really thought, like, again, I've obviously noticed it, but I hadn't really thought about it, and I'm only kind of thinking about it as you're talking here, and I think it's probably something to do with his spine. You know, the way he has like a looks like he has an ectoskeleton or something.
Yeah,
I would say that probably gives him some sort of powers to fly or some shit, which is
gotcha.
kind of fucking crazy.
Yeah, because like essentially, that's probably what made him such a powerful character
Hmm.
because he had such a different look upon the world due to the fact that he had powers.
Yeah,
Um, and because of the power, like he's like, well, I can harness more power if I have control over things. I can totally take over this planet. I could totally take over for how like instead of House Atreides. And I think it works really well, especially because all those characters are designed to look almost like the engineers from Prometheus.
yeah,
Um, it's just it's like this higher form of like being, which
mm,
I think is really cool about those characters. They're all bald, kind of like kind of like a showcase to show that like, oh, I'm intelligent, so therefore I'm bald in a
yeah.
sense.
Appearance means nothing. It's they're not superficial. It's just they're kind of barbaric and just
Well,
straight to business, like, you know.
like yeah, pretty barbaric when you think about it, because like you see
They're
in the
all kind
second.
of demonic, like you're like nearly in the second one. They've all got like rotten
Oh yeah,
teeth and they're like fucking cannibals, like they're eating people and everything. Like it's the second one. I don't really want to jump into the second one just yet. Like let's kind of,
yeah,
if we can, try and just stick in the first one and then we'll move on to the second because I haven't actually really talked about the second one at all yet, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it. But
right.
yeah, so like,
So,
go on, sorry.
but I just want to say like for the roles that we're giving, I think Batista could have had a little bit more time, or at
Mm,
least a bit more to talk about, and like maybe give him a little bit more dialogue because I really wanted to see what this character had on his shoulders. Because
yeah,
all we knew was that he was a like a screaming mess, like he was just always fucking up. So,
yeah,
but what about this character, mattered to me, in the sense. So like I felt like Batista's character was a throwaway, which
yeah,
kind of felt sad. Like I really wanted Batista to do more, and I think he had the range to do so because he was doing a very good job of being like dramatic about things. Like he wanted to go to war. He wanted to take down the Fremen. He wanted to make sure like everything was taken care of on his side so that he doesn't get in trouble.
yeah,
And nothing was happening his way because of the fact that they didn't kill Paul and Jessica.
yeah,
So like it fits so well in that sense. So like I can see how that worked, but at the same time I could have used like maybe 15 minutes of introspective, not all together. It doesn't have to be all in that one shot.
mhm,
Just like every couple minutes here and there. Just I want to know what he was thinking.
yeah, yeah. Like again, it was like a big info dump, but not really about him.
Right.
It did feel a bit, yeah. Because I'm trying to think back to my first viewing of the movie, and it was back in 2021. Obviously, I saw it on the big screen when it first came out, and I was thinking, did I really watch Batista in much things before that? Like again, since 2021, he's popped up in a few more things since then. But I'm thinking, like, did I really know him as anything bar Drax at that stage in time? And I don't think I really did, because I remember thinking to myself, like, whoa, he's like a real different character. He's like a really different person here.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of nice to see him just be like a berserker, like, it was like cool. Um, but yeah, like I kind of did feel the same, like that, he just kind of felt a little underutilized in the first movie. And even in the second movie, again, I know I'm breaking my own rule here, but he definitely got a bit more screen time in the second one. And
Of
we'll kind of dip into his character more in the second movie, because it's very interesting.
Right. And I would say as well, like Batista doesn't have a problem being an actor on screen. I know that he's been a wrestler before. I know that he's done a lot of like meathead jobs
Mhm.
as an actor.
Yeah.
But if you've seen him in Knives Out, like or Glass Onion,
Yeah.
which is like a Knives Out sequel,
It's
um,
great. It's great.
he does a really good job in that one.
He does. He was the star of that movie, in my opinion. Like, he was, yeah, he was the most interesting character, I think, or one of them anyway.
Him and Edward Norton, because like Edward
Yeah,
Norton's one of my favorite actors.
yeah, he was incredible. That movie, it wasn't as good as the first one, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that.
Knives Out, the first one, is like sensational, in my opinion. Like, it's just so good. It's everything about it is so good. Like, even I don't really want to say anything if people haven't seen it, but like, there's a lot of kind of twists and turns in the
Oh
story, and
yeah.
it's kind of one of those, who did it sort of movies, and it's fun, and the cast is great. And the second one, while it's good, it's just not quite as good as the first one. But I think it would have been very hard from the top the first one. It was just so good.
True, but I did like the fact that the twist was more so rooted in kind of like a silliness to it. Um,
Yeah.
because it like it really like it's just funny. Like this is not really a big spoiler, but like essentially, was it Dubois? I think that's his name.
Hmm.
He's just like you're just an idiot. Like essentially, just
Yeah.
vaguely saying like
Yeah.
the villain's an idiot.
Yeah. 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 That's hilarious, dude. Um. So Doom Part One, what would you give it out of 10? Like, what would your score be?
I'd give it like a solid 7.5. Like it was okay. Like it wasn't um incredibly memorable. It was just more informational. It felt like a documentary. Um
Yeah, yeah. So, like, when I rewatched one, so myself and my missus rewatched it, and it felt a lot better the second time. And I think, again, because it wasn't as much of an info dump the second time, that I felt like I could maybe just sit back and enjoy it a little more, you know? Um, what do you think? Because, again, just before we move on to part two, but what do you think of the similarities to Star Wars? Like, do you think it's very similar to Star Wars? Because I know there's a lot of that going around online at the moment, that, like, a lot of people are saying that George Lucas ripped off Dune, because the Dune book came out in 1965, and the first Star Wars movie wasn't until like 10 years later that George started writing it and stuff. So, um, do you think that? I don't know, man. It's hard, because, like, like, obviously, some people are getting real up in arms about it, and it's like, well, like, it's pretty much the exact same story, like, fucking Messiah, like the one, like like basically Paul and Anakin are very alike, and the whole spice thing on the desert planet and all this stuff. And you know,
well,
there's
uh,
plenty of stories about desert planets, like, what I mean. It's not. I don't think it's
right.
very similar, and but I like it. Obviously, I do see similarities, like, and especially the second time watching it, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see a bit of influence here, but to say that Lucas is ripping them off is a bit ridiculous, like, and
I I mean, you could say anything about anybody doing something,
of
saying that
course,
they're ripping something off. Like there's always something that someone else has already done, and that you take kind of the inspiration with that and move forward with it. So like
yeah,
I know later on we're going to talk about the in the anime news about Toriyama, but a lot of mangaka like in the have stated like they wouldn't have been manga writers if not for Toriyama. So like
yeah,
it's just you have to understand like there's influence. It's not plagiarism, because if it
yeah,
was plagiarism, clearly there would have been a legal suit.
true,
So it's just Lucas liked the idea behind the books. He liked the idea and took that and said, "Well, I'd like to make my own planet," essentially.
yeah. And, like,
And
obviously the Empire
right,
and both, you know, and, like, it seems like kind of force powers, like mind control, that sort of stuff. Like, we haven't really even still dived into too much about that like the whole kind of the voice and stuff that's from Dune, as opposed to the Force and Star Wars and stuff.
Right. And it's not very much like the most focused thing in Dune. I think it's just
Yeah,
more so it's a known thing
yeah,
that can be used to influence changes.
yeah,
Because essentially people who don't want to do things can be like told through the voice
yeah,
do it anyway,
yeah.
like grab the knife, slit his throat, like give me the knife, and then basically like get and kill themselves. Like that's what we saw on the ship, with Jessica. Jessica was able to is, of course, the Jenna Gesserit, um, or the Bene Gesserit, sorry, I said that wrong, the opposite way. Um, and she taught Paul, which is almost blasphemy to that group because it's
Mhm.
only women that usually have the ability to take over that power, who can harness it and who can survive and become like basically Reverend Mothers.
Mhm.
Um, but in terms of Star Wars, I would say like yes, there's the Force and there's influence within the Force. There's the light side and dark side, but
Jedi
that's
mind tricks, all that sort of stuff.
right. But even then, that's like a little more expansive than that we could see. Like
Yeah.
you don't take that for granted. Like that's something that's more so like them talking. They're literally just talking to each other to kind of emotionally drive them either between the light side or the dark side within Star Wars. It's a lot of conversation. It's not so much like literally forcing people to do things. It's
Mhm.
swaying them. And that's the big difference. And I think that's like what really makes it cool about Star Wars and what's cool about it in Dune is because one is forceful, the other one's just persuasive.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
agree.
and with the force powers, like it's not really even that much of a big deal. I think that that's something that spawned from Lucas, like maybe looking at Baron Harkonnen and thinking like, well, let's expand upon that, like because he's able to kind of make himself move around. But even then, that's kind of like a long shot. It could be anything.
Mhm.
But if you think about it with Star Wars, it's so expansive. It doesn't just sit in Arrakis or Tatooine in the sense.
Yeah.
It goes beyond that. It goes to Coruscant. It goes to oh god, I always forget the planets because there's like 4 or 5 of them, right?
Oh, there's so many planets, bro.
There's
So
Alderaan.
many.
Is there one? I think there's one like Teleron and
Naboo.
Naboo. Essentially like they go beyond, and I haven't read the books in Dune, so I don't know if they go beyond that, but I would assume so if they're going to make
Yeah.
the third movie.
Apparently they do, in the books. Again, I was listening to a Dan and Nerd stream, and he was talking about. I think he's read the books, and he was saying once they go off world, the story gets fucking wild. So I'm kind of hoping they get there. I know there's like a game coming out. There's like an open world MMO coming out,
Oh, like
and
the
then
Spice Wars or something?
I don't know. Yeah, like you're like a survivor on the planet, like the desert planet, like in the dune. So, um, like obviously Star Wars has the Dune Sea, which is part of like the deep fucking desert in Tatooine and all. So, like obviously there's going to be similarities, but I don't know, man. Like I definitely see major differences, but I could see similarities, and if people want to focus on a fair play, well, leave them
Well
to it.
like, and it's okay if they focus on it, it's just you can't mark it as plagiarism because it's not. Like, if it was exactly named the same way, like,
Yeah,
if if we had Luke Atreides, like, that'd be a problem.
yeah, of course, of course. But I heard that the author of the books, Frank something, I can't think of his surname. He was the like obviously this kind of went on while he was still writing the books, and he even wrote into one of the last books. He like called some race of people that he called them 3POs as like a nickname for them. Like he
Mhm.
kind of threw in like a little Star Wars reference as a kind of like, George, I'm fucking listening. I know what's going on in the.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but he made them like really dumb characters or something like. So it's kind of a little shot, yeah, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, that works. I
um,
like it.
yeah, yeah. Like I think I was checking on IMDb. The first one's sitting on an 8 out of 10, which is an incredible score for a film, especially like a kind of sci-fi film. And I kind of agree. Like I think I'd probably say 7.5 in and around with the same where you are. Maybe closer to an 8 after the second viewing because it kind of sat better with me the second time.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like just dive into part two. Like just part two, there's obviously a lot of hype around the part two in the last week online, and I was really annoyed that I had to wait a week to go see the movie because I really wanted to see what the hype was all about. And just to kind of start it off, I loved the movie. I loved part two. I did. When I walked out of the cinema, like me and my girlfriend, it was kind of weird. We didn't like say anything to each other at all for like a couple of minutes. We were just walking, and then we kind of just turned to each other. Was like, so what do you think of that? Like, and like my girlfriend was like, it was incredible, like absolutely amazing, like absolutely loved it. And I was kind of just, I was thinking like, yeah, it was amazing, like, but like I saw so many kind of TikToks and YouTubes and stuff like that, and people like saying like, like it's the greatest movie that they've ever seen, and cinematic history and all this stuff. Like, and while it was a cinematic experience, yes, I don't think it was like it's not my favorite movie now. You know what I mean? I didn't
Mhm.
walk out of the movie and go, "Wow, I've got a new number one." Like that's my new favorite movie. Um, I could think of movies that are more important to me personally. I could think of movies that I think would be better than this movie. It's not like number one on the list. Like it's not the greatest movie of all time or anything. But
Mhm.
yes, it's fucking incredible. Like seeing it in IMAX is an experience. Like our seats were shaking. It was just fucking spectacular. Like I tip the hat to Timothy Chalamet. He was absolutely incredible in this movie. Like as an actor, he's never really impressed me. Not to take shots, but I've seen him in a load of stuff, and I'm kind of just like, yeah, there he is. He's doing a cool job. He's got range. He feels like different people when you see him in different things. I've never seen anything of his that I've sat back and gone, Jesus Christ, that kid's a good actor. Whereas
Mhm.
now I'm like, wow, this kid like owned that fucking role. He was incredible in it. The cast was, incredible in the second one. Austin Butler was like menacing every second he was on the screen. He was fucking amazing. Zendaya was a lot better in this one. I kind of thought she was just kind of a prop in the first one. It kind of felt, especially the
Mhm.
first time I watched it. Maybe the second time, maybe not so much. But I remember the first time I was like, why is she so much in the promotion of this film? Because like she's kind of just standing around. She doesn't really do anything, and she's barely in it. Whereas the second time, I'm like, okay, I kind of see it now. But she was so good in the second movie. And like it was just again, it was like the first movie had like a bit of an all-star cast, Oscar Isaac and Jason Momoa and stuff like that. Unfortunately, those guys didn't make it into the second film, but Josh Brolin being alive and surviving was epic. I didn't see that coming. That was a really nice like kind of twist because like he's his mentor, and it kind of like links him back to his old heritage rather than him just kind of completely abandoning who he was. I thought it was a good kind of story arc to kind of have influences from his past and his present life together,
Mhm.
working together. I thought that was like really good because it kind of keeps him in the middle rather than him going full kind of foreigner as they call him or whatever in it, like, you know what I mean? So I thought that was really interesting. And then like, people like Batista, as I said, as we were talking about him earlier, like he was a lot better in this one, but he was like a lot more kind of submissive. And again, not to kind of like spoil the story for anyone who hasn't seen it, but like he has a mission and he kind of fails that mission, but he's kind of tucking his tail between his legs and kind of like begging for mercy and stuff. He's kind of like really submissive in this one, whereas in the first one, like he's very like kind of like an absolute brute, like he's a berserker in the first one, whereas he's a completely different character in the second one, and you kind of feel sorry for him in the second one.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, yeah, like it was incredible, um, visually stunning. Like again, I didn't feel like the movie was whatever the runtime was. It was over 2.5, I think, wasn't it? It was like 240 or something. Didn't feel like it
Like
at all.
247.
Yeah, didn't feel like nearly a 3 hour movie. Did not feel like it at all. It just flowed so well, visually stunning, story wise, great. Like just the IMAX experience was just next level. Like it was definitely an experience. I don't think I'd call it cinematic history, but it's definitely something. If you are a fan of cinema, it's definitely something to go to see in IMAX before it leaves the cinema, because I think you will regret it. Because I don't know what people's home setups are like, but I find even I have a very good home setup, and I even think if I was to watch that for the first time at home, I'd feel a bit cheated because I'd be like, oh shit, I should have watched this on the big screen. It's
Mhm.
that good. It's that kind of just epic.
Yeah.
Well, I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. The second one, like maybe even a high 9. Like it's not a perfect 10. I don't think any movie ever is, but I there's nothing wrong with this movie, and that kind of makes me think, yeah, it deserves it's sitting on an 8.9 right now on IMDb with like 140,000 reviews, and I think it deserves that. It deserves that. I would probably give it maybe like 9.3 or something. I think it's fucking incredible. It really is.
Nice.
What you
Okay.
think?
Um, yeah, I would say this is much better than the first one.
10 times better than the first one, in my opinion.
It definitely a bigger budget. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
far
And I
more.
think that in terms of audio, visuals, definitely looks a lot better, feels better, sounds better. It just it really pushed it up like a couple notches, which is really good. And I think that's why so many people are so hyped about it because most when most sequels come about, a lot of the times it's kind of like a straight line. It's not really going lateral. It's going horizontal.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I think it could have actually been longer. I think there are some scenes that kind of got shoved in there
Hmm.
that just like the point where I would say that when Paul gets to the temple where the water of life is,
Yeah.
that felt kind of rushed. And I felt like there should have been a little bit more of a deeper feeling towards him arriving at the temple itself and walking into the area, because it kind of just felt like he just like immediately they're like, you need to go south,
Hmm.
and then he shows up, and then he's like, give me the water, and it's
Yeah.
and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like we literally take our time throughout this entire movie, and you just kind of like shoehorn this one. It's just made it so easy for him to just show up when I felt like it was very difficult to even get out of the area. He wanted to stay, and they really didn't give like that kind of feeling of like him arriving and making it such a big deal. It was just like, yep, he's here, take the thing. And I thought that that was really weird.
Mm.
Um, but like other than that, like the moment that we saw him drink the water, when he blacked out, when he saw the visions of his sister, which is played by Anya Taylor Joy, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought that was pretty cool. I think we could have maybe had a little bit more in there as well. Maybe could have had something in between during the conversation between oh my god, what's Zendaya's character's name? Is it
Chuny or something, or Chony or some
Johnny?
shit like
Johnny.
Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like either a little bit more of an emotional kind of moment would have been cool. Um, the moment that she like had the tear, mixed it with the water of life, and like kind of brought him back, I thought that
That was
was
cool.
really cool.
Yeah, it was
But
cool.
yeah, like it just felt so quick, so fast. Like it's just no moments of like setting it up. It's just like they're like you literally snap of your fingers, they're all there.
Mm.
um, which I thought was kind of like off-putting because, like I said, the movie itself isn't isn't taking its sweet time. It's taking its time because it needs you to understand how important it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't really feel like, just, to jump in there real quick, I didn't really feel myself that the film was too rushed, because I know, like, I know he kind of just showed up south, but all the talk that we heard about the south was like, there's millions of people down there, like, it's like it's very heavily populated, but it's kind of secret. And like, you always hear like the other clans talk about the south. It's like, did you navigate the south? When the emperor arrives, and it's like, no, we didn't go south. No one can live there. There's like too many storms or whatever. Like, and they're just like, you should have like scoured the whole planet. And then obviously they realized they made a big fucking mistake by not going south, because like
of course,
literally the whole army arrives. But I don't know. I just I didn't feel like that was rushed, in my opinion. I know Paul kind of pushed against going down south because he saw that vision. He didn't want to go down south because he thought that would lead to lead him down a bad path. And then I think he just realized, okay, I have to do this. Like, and that scene where he's walking into the temple, like that's like probably my favorite scene in the whole film. Like, it was just so badass. Like, he's going through like a sea of like 100,000 people, and everyone's just stepping to the sides, getting out of his way and all. And he's got the hood up, like it's like Anakin in Episode 3. Like, it's just badass. I even used that clip or that like image for this thumbnail of this podcast. Like, I was like, it's fucking epic. Like, it was such a great scene. Um, I do kind of think like it would have been nice for the whole water scene, as you say, to maybe last a little longer, because it's like the stakes were so high. You know,
Yeah.
he's like, no men have ever survived it and stuff like that. And it's kind of like he drinks it, he kind of KOs for a second, and then it's like he's just revived with the tear straight away. Maybe like, they could have done a scene where they went into his mind and he's whatever going through some shit or something. Like they could have
Or
done something like kind of crazy or
or they could have had it so that when Johnny like mixes her tear with the water, you go back into kind of like the visions that he's having while he's blacked out,
mm,
and then seeing the moment where he's coming back, like he's being brought back.
yeah,
But not putting too hard into it, just kind of like showing that moment. It's like you have to go now in the sense, and like he comes
yeah,
back, and there you go. And like I'm not saying that the film is like taking like going too fast. I'm saying that that scene in and itself, um, when he enters the area for the water of life, like that scene was just really fast. I
mm,
thought it was way too fast. Like it should have been a lot more dramatic. But the temple moment, like when they're like worshiping and they're like, worshiping within the circle area, and then you see Timothy Chalamet as Paul like coming in, like just beelining it.
yeah,
Um, that was perfect. Like it worked really well. Like, I didn't think that Timothy Chalamet had like a voice until this point. You know, I
yeah.
I I
Some of
thought
those
he
scenes, bro, like where he's like,
it's
where he's doing the big
so
speech
good.
and he's screaming and all, I am your
Yeah.
messiah, and all, like, like, and it's like, whoa, this fucking kid can act. Like, I was blown away by him, like, and I saw someone tweet about it saying, like, this dude line this dude up for the Oscars next year, like, you know what I mean? Because like obviously it's too late for this year's, but I would not be surprised if he started winning some big awards next year for this
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Like, it's fucking an incredible performance. Yeah,
Well,
massive.
now it really makes me wanna watch Wonka and just see, like, what
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like, you never know, like, the movie probably didn't do that great, and I didn't
Mm,
really check out the ratings for it at all, but, like, Timothy Chalamet, I kinda just wanna watch it for him, just to see
yeah.
what kind of, like, antics that he can come up with as that character.
Do you know
Um
he's actually in Interstellar as well, which is like probably like my favorite movie ever. But I haven't seen it in a couple of years, and obviously after seeing like Chalamet kind of popping off now in the media and all, like I see his face everywhere now. So it's kind of like I didn't notice it was him. He's much younger because this movie came out like 10 years ago. So
Oh, yeah.
he plays the young version of Casey Affleck in that movie, and he's so good at it as well. Like, it's just like because he actually kind of acts like Casey Affleck, so like it makes sense then when the time jump happens and then it is Casey Affleck. You're kind of like, that's clever. But yeah, he was really good in that movie as well, and like that's like my favorite movie ever. So yeah,
He was
fair play
he
to
was
him.
also in he was also in Don't Look Up, which
Yeah, yeah, he was good in that too.
yeah, like strangely enough, like when I first saw it, I was like, ugh. But then like after a while you kind of get used to the character and you're like, okay, he's actually got a soft heart. He's a good person.
Yeah,
It just seemed like he was in a bad kind of company mindset. But in reality, it was just like he just needed someone to talk to and someone to kind of like create that connection. And it
yeah.
really shows because near the end of the film, you see how like they're all kind of reconnecting, even
Mhm.
though it's too late in the sense. Which
Have you watched that movie on Netflix? I think it's called The Kingdom or just Kingdom, maybe. It's a like an English kind of war movie, but it's based in like the 14th century or whatever. But I think what's his face is in it. Robert Pattinson. He plays like the French king, but Timothy Chalamet is like the King of England in it. And
oh wow,
I haven't seen the movie myself now, but um, my missus like swears that it's a fantastic film. Like, she watched it and said it was actually really good. And because I was kind of saying like I said the same line to her when we were talking about this movie straight after we saw it. I said that kid's never actually like kind of made me go wow. And
yeah,
that's when she brought up this movie. She's like, he's incredible in this Netflix movie called Kingdom. So I think I gotta watch it because I'm becoming a bit of a fan of him now. So
yeah,
um yeah, it was fucking great, man. And like even like now, like after like kind of watching the first one again, and like now having the first two in my head, I think there's a couple of his visions that haven't come true yet. So there was a couple of things that I after during my second watch through, like there's one scene where he's like in black robes and Zendaya's beside him and she's in black robes and it looks like he's kind of the king or whatever, or he's like the emperor or whatever. And like his eyes are bright blue. Like, so I'm like, okay, obviously he's like been either there a long time or obviously now we know it's actually just the water that's made his eyes so blue. But
Mhm.
like there's scenes that have happened there that just weren't in the second movie, and I'm kind of interested to see because when I was after we saw the film, I was going to the bathroom and I was waiting for my missus outside, and I could hear a few guys. I always kind of like to kind of earwig on people talking about a movie afterwards. I don't know if that's me being weird or if people are like that, but
No, not at all.
I was kind of listening on some people if I'm standing around waiting for my missus or whatever, like just to hear what like some people are saying, like, and I could hear these two guys talking. Like one of them was like, "Is there going to be a third movie?" And like one guy goes, "No, no, I don't think so. I don't think they're making a third one." And I haven't heard anything about the third movie. The way the second movie ended, I would be shocked if they didn't make a third movie. I think it needs to be a trilogy at least. I know there's like 6 books, but there has to be at least a movie trilogy. Like, you know, especially with how the second one ended. Like, you know, it's like, you know, the holy wars are coming. Like, it's like there's no way we stop here. Like, there's
Right.
not a
Yeah.
chance. Like, not a chance. I was just doing a bit of a Google there as well, and the Hollywood Reporter put up something saying Dune 3 has a big problem. The next book isn't that great. That's the title of the fucking thing. So
Really?
apparently, yeah. So apparently, the director has said that he wants to do a third movie, but he says the books for him get increasingly kind of more wacky and wonderful. And that kind of lines up with what Josh from the Den of Nerds was saying. Like he's like, once they get off world, it gets kind of crazy. Um, and I think he kind of just wants to keep the story on the planet and then maybe just try and end it there. So like I
That
think
could
do one,
hurt it
yeah,
though.
they have to do one more movie. But maybe just the Denis, whatever his name is, the director, maybe he steps away and somebody else takes over for the rest of it. Like that,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
if
it is.
he's against it, I'm if he's against it, I'm
Oh,
against
God,
him.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if he's not in it, like, you know, move on. Like, you know what I mean? Like they can
Yeah.
get different directors to do a different trilogy, but I think they have to do a third movie, bro. I really do. Like with the way it ended, like they have to.
Right. Because so yeah, we're gonna be reaching into the next book, which I think is Messiah. I think it's called Dune
Yeah,
Messiah.
Doom Messiah. Yeah,
Which like I honestly I don't care if it gets wacky. I just want you to tell the story and bring it to life, basically.
yeah.
And that's what they did with these books. And you know, I don't know if they've changed a lot of things pertaining to the books, and you know, now it's slightly different on, you know, the films, but I don't like if you're changing just a little bit, that's fine, but don't drastically change it and keep people in one spot because that gets boring really easily. You've seen it multiple times, especially with Star Wars. Like we've been on Tatooine, I don't know, like 8 times already. Like it just feels like we're not leaving that planet anymore. And
It's
to
a
do
pretty
that again,
overused planet. Yeah,
yeah, and to do that again with Arrakis, like that just seems like blasphemy. Like it just
yeah,
yeah, just leave the planet. Like there's more planets to worry about. There's, you know, there's the houses that you have to conquer essentially. Like you have to fight the fight in other areas because like otherwise it just gets really stale. Like we've seen the
yeah.
sand, we've seen the dunes, we've seen the worms. Let's get out of here. Let's go see some green. Let's go see some ocean. Let's go see a bunch of shit.
Yeah, let's fight in space. You know.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
well, I mean,
maybe
honestly,
not.
I'm kind of tired of fighting in space. It's not really that fun anymore. I
Mm.
don't like to be completely fair, and I don't know if you feel the same way. You probably don't. I never really liked the Star Wars scenes in space. Like I've never really liked them. They just like except for episode 4, which I thought was really fun.
The
Um
first one, like the Death Star being destroyed,
yeah,
like the last
cuz that
fight
was
in space.
cuz that was the whole point.
Yeah, yeah. That's the
Um
big mission.
yeah.
I love the opening to episode 3 is one of my favorite scenes in that movie where it's literally the pan out after the credits. And it's literally Obi-Wan and Anakin just kind of you just see their two ships and they're like flying along beside a big Star Destroyer. And then like they just dip over the edge and it's just like they're just like you're just looking straight down on Coruscant and it's just like full blown war. It was just
Yeah.
such a cool scene. I'll never forget watching that on the big screen like back in 2005, and I was just like I was like in my chair like oh my god, I was like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just fucking mind blowing, like, you know. And even to this day, I've watched that movie so many times, but like even to this day, like I think it still holds up. Like it just looks sensational. It's stunning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I hope they do part 3. I really do. Like I think they'd be missing a beat now if they didn't do a trilogy. Like it just makes sense. Part 1, part 2, part 3. Like, you know, even if it doesn't end smoothly, at least do part 3. You know what I mean? I think they really need to, especially with the reception that this film has gotten. I'm a, I'm a little surprised at the box office performance, being honest, because I don't know what it's like for you guys over there, but for me, like, I found it difficult to see this film. Now, I know I was being a little particular. You know, there's only like one screen that I like to go to these days,
Hmm.
especially for a movie like this. And the screen that I go to, I couldn't find seats for a whole week for the show. Like, I tried to book not like Tuesday gone, the Tuesday before. So for the first week, like I was a few days late for the pre-sale, and by the time I went to look, like um Friday night completely sold out all the shows. You know, the 5 o'clock show, which would have been a nightmare for me to get to, but I was thinking if I can get seats to the 5 o'clock show, I'll try and make it work, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's completely sold out. There was like a show again at like 8, completely sold out. Another one at like 10:30. I was like, that's ridiculous. Can't really make that work because of the baby and stuff. But I was like, if it has to be, I will do it, sort of thing like that. I was like, I was desperate really to see it because I wanted to talk about it last week on the podcast. And again, check Saturday, Sunday, all sold out. Like I couldn't believe it. And then I'm going into the week after, which is just the week just gone. And it's like Wednesday, which would have been a day that I could have gone, completely sold out. I'm like, fuck's sake, this is sold out a week and a half in advance. Like, I'm like, this is crazy. And then I go up to the Friday, again, sold out on the Friday. I was like, this is mental. Then I ended up getting a ticket for yesterday for like 1 o'clock in the day. And I'm like, I'm never in the cinema this early, like to go see a movie like this. But that was the only show that I could get. It was bizarre. So like for me for me thinking like it's sitting on like 367 million globally, which is, you might think that's a good number, but I don't think that that's a good number in the grand scale of things because this movie seems to be, the word of mouth is just incredible. Like I genuinely think that this movie could stay in the cinema for another couple of weeks and continue to add on a couple of hundred more million. Like, but it just seems to be going quite slow. And I don't know if it's just because it's a bit of a kind of niche or something. Like it's, maybe it's not as like, you know, popular as something like Oppenheimer, for example, like where it's like that movie did 1 billion easily, like whereas this movie seems to be struggling to hit a 500 million. It's kind of weird, just with so much talk of it being like the greatest movie ever and like, you know, cinematic history and all this stuff. Like, and that's pretty like commonly being said and being seen around the internet. It's not as if it's like, you know, me seeing it on TikTok and it's like a core kind of like focus thing. Like my dad was telling me that like he was listening to the radio driving around for work and them saying like, you know, this movie needs to be seen, like even like it's being said on Irish radio that this is like, you know, cinematic fucking history being made here. Like, so I'm just kind of shocked at the number of the box office. Like it just seems quite low. I don't know. It's
I
weird.
mean, it. I can totally understand that. It could also be the fact that it is selling out in theaters. Like, but my question to you is like, are you trying to experience it only on IMAX? Are you trying to do Dolby Cinema? Are you trying to reach out as far as you can?
Just
You know,
just IMAX screens.
so
Like
that's
obviously, if I wanted to see it in a shit screen, a small screen, like a reject screen in a theater somewhere, I'm sure I could get tickets to it. That wouldn't be a problem. I'm kind of hyper focusing on seeing it. Like I wanted to, because again, you know, everything I heard about this movie, being told it was like, you know, by some people whose opinions I really respect, being told that it's like one of the best movies they've ever seen. You know, I'm kind of like, okay, I need to see this. I need to, when I experience this for the first time, it has to be in the literal greatest fucking experience that I can get in this country. And that
mhm,
is Screen 9 in Blanchardstown. Shout out to the fucking boys over in Odeon. Sponsor us. But like seriously, I like no joke. I genuinely feel like I deserve a sponsorship from these guys at this stage because the amount of people I sell to go to see the movie in that screen is like unbelievable. Like
right.
genuinely, like I was only
So
talking to a guy about it in the gym today. I was like, I even said, again, this is a bit outrageous, but I even said, I go, because he's never been to the cinema before. And I said, I guarantee you it'll be the greatest like experience that you've had in the cinema. And I said, if you don't, if you come back to me and say, let's say you go see Dune Part 2. If you don't, if you come back to me and say that you did not enjoy that fucking film or enjoy the entire experience, I said, I'll pay for your fucking ticket. Like that's how confident I am in knowing that that cinema screen is gonna fucking change your viewing experience. Like,
Right. So seeing as you talk about this and seeing as that you have to watch this in IMAX or you have to watch this in Dolby Cinema or that you need like you absolutely have to watch it in this format, it's probably partially why we're not getting as big of a box office as it should be. Because
Maybe, yeah.
I went to go see it in Regal. I didn't care. I really didn't.
Yeah.
Because I knew Regal was fine. Like there were going to be plenty of seats. I could stretch out my legs if I wanted to. I could pick a seat anywhere I want because it's very small. And when I picked a seat, there were only like 4 or 5 people actually coming in to see the movie. But then when I went in, it was nearly full. So
What,
like
like what time was that at? Was that like this morning, like early?
yeah, early this morning.
Yeah.
It,
So
it,
like same for me, right? Like again, 1 p.m. show, Saturday afternoon. uh, in my opinion, a pretty weird time to go to the cinema, especially for a movie like this. And I went to, again, as I say, second weekend, Saturday, midday showing, sold out. IMAX, €20 a seat, completely every single fucking seat sold out.
right.
Like
So then when
incredible.
right, so then when that group is full, the group that wants to see it in IMAX is like, "Well, fuck this. I can't see it yet. Let's try another day. It's full. Well, fuck this. I
Yeah.
can't see it. Let's try another day." And that's you. That was
I
literally
won
what you were experiencing. So
I
like there were
wonder
plenty of
are
other
there
people.
but I wonder, are there more people like me or more people like you?
There's more people like you.
You think
There's
so?
there's a lot less people like me who don't give a flying fuck whether I listen to it in IMAX
Mhm.
or whether I listen into a Dolby Cinema. I just either want to be comfortable in my seat away from other people or in a
Yeah.
recliner away from other people. I am the niche in terms of like I will go see it wherever.
Yeah, yeah.
There are a lot more people like you, Finto, where like there's so many people that have told you it's the greatest experience of all time. They have seen it in IMAX. They have seen it in Dolby Cinema. They would not like they will not push themselves to see it otherwise in a different format. And
Mhm.
so like because of that, I think that's why it's kind of like taking a bit longer for it to
There's
reach its box office
not enough
potential.
IMAX screens, yeah.
No, 'cause it's so
It's an
fucking
interesting
expensive.
theory.
It's
Oh,
really
you think
fucking
they just won't
expensive.
go because it's expensive?
No, 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 no. Like you mistake me. It's really expensive, but if the experience is worth it, you're willing to wait. And
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
at
you think these people will go see it, but it's just gonna take longer?
right,
Yeah,
because they didn't get the time frame that they wanted, and therefore
yeah,
but they don't wanna ruin that experience
yeah,
because they absolutely but for me, it's more so like I gotta see it regardless on the day. If it's not available in Dolby Cinema, if it's not available in IMAX, I'm gonna go see it in a regular theater. I
yeah,
have to go see it before, everybody starts spoiling it essentially. Like, I don't need
yeah,
spoilers and whatnot. So I'm the I don't want spoilers guy.
yeah, yeah, and that's usually me too, but I still have to see it in IMAX too.
Yeah, so
I'm very yeah,
that's an extra feature that has to be met on your end, which a lot of
yeah,
people that are
yeah,
probably in that same mindset.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
true.
I believe that within the next couple weeks, like you said, it should kinda ease up a bit, and maybe we'll see it shoot up a bit higher, hopefully,
Yeah,
or you're right in that it's a niche film, and
mm.
that we're only gonna see maybe an additional 200,000,000 that gets tacked on over the amount that was originally seen in part 1, because part 2 is clearly better.
Oh, yeah, like night
Yeah,
and day in my opinion, like, it's better action, better storytelling, better everything, you know what I mean?
right.
It's just I saw a lot of people compare it to, like, Two Towers versus Fellowship, Empire Strikes Back versus A New Hope sort of thing. So I went in kind of thinking like, okay, this is what this movie's gonna be a sequel that's just, far superior to the original. I don't really agree with the Lord of the Rings comparison. Like, to be honest, I think Fellowship is amazing. I love Fellowship, but um definitely with Star Wars. 100% with Star Wars. And,
Mhm.
Terminator and, a few others, Godfather 2, whatever. There's loads of them. But it's yeah, man. Like I know I understand you're perfectly right in what you're saying, and I think you're probably correct. And I think for that reason, I would say I would not be surprised if this movie is still in the theaters in like 4 weeks' time, still showing in IMAX because people are still going to want to go see it.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is like one of the first times ever as well. And this just will kind of just maybe this might sell some tickets to some people. I don't know, but my girlfriend has never actually said this to me before, but she said it to me after we saw this film today or yesterday. She goes, "I want to see that again on the big screen." Like she's like, "I want to go again," and like she never says that. Like so, that should kind of tell you how good this film was. Because and like I had a friend of mine text me the other day, "Oh, I saw you got your Dune tickets. Let me know how it is. I want to go see it again." And I said, or he said, "I want to go see it." And I said, "Look, if it's as good as I think it's going to be, like I'll go with you. I'll go again to see it." So I'm probably going to end up seeing it a second time myself. So
Nice.
like that should tell you everything you need to know. Like it was sensational, absolutely sensational.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I mean, all I gotta say, man. Overall, I give it like an 8.5, close to a high, like close to a 9.
mhm,
It's I really think it could have been longer. I really do. Only for the fact that like I was just really enamored in the fact that like their information was so dramatic,
yeah,
and additionally like all the scenes that they had were shot well. Except for that one scene with the water of life. I think it could have been fleshed out a
yeah,
bit more, which is like that's not knocking off points.
mhm.
I think it's just there were moments where I did find like I was already expecting this to happen. Um
I think it's hard to keep people in the cinema for more than 3 hours. I personally wouldn't have a problem, but I would definitely need to go to the toilet, and that annoys me.
yeah.
I hate leaving my seat. I don't like missing things. You know, I'll never forget, like, for some reason, I just couldn't hold it. I had to go to the toilet during Endgame, and I missed the whole scene with Steve Rogers, like, seeing Peggy in the past and stuff. And then when I saw it the second time, I was like, "Oh shit, I missed this the first time." I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, so I suppose I wasn't too upset because I knew I was probably going to watch it a second time. But at the same time, I really don't want to stand up. And like for the last, I would say 25 minutes of this movie, I was really kind of needing to go to the toilet. Like I was kind of holding it a piss pretty bad. Like, so if that movie was over 3 hours, I probably would have had to step out at some point and that would have annoyed me. So I can kind of understand. And again, like I probably have movie stamina a lot higher than most people. Like I could sit through the Justice League, fucking the Snyder Cut's 4 hours long. I could do it with stand on my head. Like, man, I don't even think about it. Like, it's like, let's go, just give it to me. So it's and again, but if that was a theatrical release, I'd say, yeah, it's kind of tough to sit through 4 hours when you're sitting with a big drink and your popcorn and your sweets. And like you're kind of shoveling loads of shit in your face. You're like, I need to go to the toilet shit. When
Dude,
you're sitting at home, it's a lot easier to kind of pace yourself better, I think.
right.
And
But
plus you can pause it when you're at home too.
and honestly, like they need to bring back the intermission. Like,
Yeah. Well,
holy shit.
if they're gonna do shit like this, like where it's over 4 hours, like I know if they do like back to backs and stuff, or if they do like marathons, they do intermissions during marathons, obviously. But yeah, I kind of agree. Like I wouldn't be opposed to if like so say they wanted to add another hour onto this movie, which they could have easily probably done. If they took a break at the 2 hour mark, going like stretch your legs, use the bathroom, grab a
Like
fresh
take a
drink, whatever.
10, just a
Yeah,
10.
10 minute break. Yeah, I'd have no problem with that. Get back to your seat, sit down, you're kind of refreshed and ready to go. The next 2 hours are probably flying.
Yeah, because honestly, dude, sometimes like I'll eat my popcorn, I'll run out and be like, "Fuck, I can totally go for some more popcorn." I'm like really in the mood for some more popcorn,
Yeah,
or like I run out of a candy and I'm like, "Fuck, I should have bought two candy." Like it's at that point, it's like, well, fuck,
yeah,
like I totally don't want
yeah.
to walk out.
No, I don't like walking out. I'll avoid it at all costs if I can. Yeah, I think like 8.9 as it's sitting on IMDb is a very fair score for it. I think I would probably give it a bit higher. I would put it into the nines because I can't really find a fault with it. And I'm curious to watch it again and see, do I like it more or maybe a little less? Like, I don't know if maybe the hype was just a little too high. Maybe I'm seeing it a bit too positively or something, or maybe I see it better. I don't know. I'm very curious to watch it again and find out. I know you said we wanted to do a short one today. We can end it here if you want, or if you want to do a bit of an anime talk or
Yeah, we could do an anime talk. So for those of you who haven't heard, I believe on March 1st, um, our mangaka, Dragon Ball manga creator and author, Akira Toriyama has died at age 68, which I believe is still very young for someone to pass away.
yes, I would agree.
And it's really touched the hearts of a lot of other mangakas that have been influenced by him. Eiichiro Oda. If it wasn't for Dragon Ball, he wouldn't have created One Piece.
Wow.
Um, so it's just this huge moment that everybody feels because of the fact that he was kind of like the driving force for a lot of these different animes to even pop up in the future.
Yeah.
After writing such a good manga, because Dragon Ball's really fun. I've never really read or watched a show um that has really like influenced like what I enjoy in terms of like animes and such. Um I know a lot of people were, used to give it crap like, oh, it takes too long, or oh, it's so much easier like on the manga because it's like so much quicker. It's not taking its time or whatnot. But you got to remember when it comes to shows, like it's got to bring out that feeling toward for it. So that's why I really liked the whole Dragon Ball series, and the fact that like they had these standoffs, and these moments of like power struggle, and then there's like
Yeah.
the power releasing, which that's all come about because this man decided to create these characters and create these power levels. And um
When did it
it just
start?
when did it start?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I don't know when he started.
Because you
I
say
think.
it's older than One Piece.
Oh yeah, of course it is.
I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
for some reason I thought like One Piece started in like the 90s or something. Is Dragon Ball older than the 90s?
Dragon Ball started in 1984,
Wow.
and
Okay,
One
so
Piece,
I had no idea it was that old. Jesus.
and I believe One Piece was 10 or 11 years later.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I could have sworn like I heard that One Piece started in like the 90s. So when you said that, I was like, how old is this fucking thing?
Oh, it did. Yeah, it
Yeah, that's
started
crazy.
in, I think it started in 94, and then in 96 is when they started the anime.
Wow.
Um
It's an incredible run as well. Like to be fair.
Dude, it like both shows, both authors have touched the hearts of millions.
Mm,
It's just they're amazing people. They really kind of showcase a lot of visuals and emotions, and it just it's a different world, man. It's and I know it's tough for a lot of people, especially like in your sake, because you weren't really that much of an anime fan. Um, but like seeing that you're into Demon Slayer kind of shows like there is some things that can affect you, that give you like that kind of feeling of like, man, this is great.
mm,
Because there literally is always an anime or manga for someone. You
yeah.
just got to go find it.
Yeah.
Was it 97? Yeah, it was either 94 to 90, and then 96, and then or 95 to 97. But essentially it was like a 2-year period before the anime started.
Thank you, Nova. And just to give a quick shout out to anybody who's watching us on Twitch or lurking us or whatever. Thank you guys.
Mhm. Really appreciate it. It's just like the dude was influential. Made stuff that really drove, like, again, it drove the hearts of people to push for things that they've always wanted to do. And Oda's, who is like one of my favorite authors, is influenced by Toriyama, which I didn't even know about. And I thought that was so cool to learn that
Are
One
you,
Piece wouldn't have come about if it
are you seeing
wasn't for
things a little
Toriyama.
differently now? Like, do you see a bit of the influence now? Has it kind of opened your eyes a little bit?
Oh, of course, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
but it also makes sense because there are One Piece episodes that involve Goku.
Oh,
I
wow.
think there's two of them. And then one of them also involving Toriko, which I don't know if that's a different author. But those three characters I thought were like very fun to watch, and it's always fun to see them like collaborate whenever they're like on scene. They're just fun characters. You
Yeah.
clearly see it with Goku and Luffy, that they're like big eaters. They believe in strength and to be the strongest, but also like in being emotionally attached to certain people in some cases, except for Goku. Goku's a It's kind of hard. It's hard to explain it because
Mm,
you have to watch it to kind of understand it a little bit better.
yeah.
But essentially, I really can see the influence from Toriyama that gave Oda the ability to like push forward on his journey with One Piece.
Mm,
And so like It's times like these as well. I don't remember, or I don't know how old Oda is, but I'm I worry for his health because he's not even done with this story yet. Um, it's so hard, especially for so many volumes that he's created and so many
Mhm.
chapters that he's still working on. Like, we're literally at the final saga of One Piece.
You were
Um,
saying that he was getting some operation done on his eyes or something. Did that go
yeah,
well?
I believe so. I believe he's doing well now.
Good.
Like, there hasn't been any news that he had trouble after the surgery, so I'm
That'd
happy.
be
I'm happy
s
to hear about that.
that'd be such a fucking shame, bro. Like, if
So
something happened
fucking
to him, like, could
devastating.
you imagine? Like, if the
Ugh,
story wasn't finished and you like, "No, we can't finish it." That'd be
right?
heartbreaking, dude. Yeah, it'd be heartbreaking.
But it's just like, for those two, I would say, just for Toriyama and Oda, those are two great characters, great people. Um, that should, I would love for them to live as long as they can, and sadly, Toriyama was done. Um,
Yeah. It's
so
rough, man.
rest in peace, Toriyama. Thank you so much for Dragon Ball Z. Which, by the way, in the manga series, Dragon Ball, it's just Dragon Ball. In the
Mm.
anime, they call it Dragon Ball Z just to kind of signify like
It
that time
differentiated
skip.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, in the sense, which I
Yeah,
thought was really interesting.
I've never watched it, so I don't know. But again, I've seen such like a kind of collective love for it. Like, they were like in Fortnite and everything, and I've seen people who have like full like Dragon Ball sleeves and shit, like tattoos and all. Like, so, like, it's a big thing. Like, but that's just something that I don't know, man. Like, I can't remember what age I was, like, but like when like Pokemon first like kind of hit Ireland and the Game Boy games came out and stuff like that, I was like engrossed in that and I had loads of the cards and everything. And still they might be in the attic in my parents' house. I don't even know. I could be sitting on fucking millions. You never even know. I know, I keep telling my mom I need to like dig around in the attic and see can I find some of those old Pokemon cards because I was pretty sure I had like shoe boxes full of them. Like, wouldn't be surprised if I had a couple of like pretty cool cards, but I don't know. Like, I think I just by the time the first like Pokemon movie came out, I had just grown it. Like, I just started to grow out of it, like, and I started getting into other shit and going to high school and stuff like that. And I just wasn't watching cartoons, and I kind of just like skipped it for a little while, and then it kind of all just like flew past me, man. I just missed it all.
Yeah,
Just
I
that
mean,
was it. I was gone.
everybody has their own journey, man,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes you come back to it.
Yeah, like I'm like again, I know I only really talk about Demon Slayer, but like I really enjoy Demon Slayer. Like, it's because it's not got too much of the kind of crazy anime stuff. I think you know what I'm talking about, like all the kind of crying and high pitched like voices and all that sort of like all the screaming like really annoys me. I know we've talked about this before, like, but like even when I was sitting at this when I was sitting in the cinema watching the movie, I was sitting beside a parent who had brought her daughter to see the movie,
Uh,
and like the bit where what's the yellow haired dude's name? What's his name again? Who has the electric powers?
Zenitsu.
Yeah, he starts like screaming and going mad, I think. And I was just kind of sitting there just like this, like kind of like, oh, because again, the way I was saying, I watch it at 1.5 speed as well. I was like, it's even slower, so it's taking longer for it to me to get through it. And I'm just kind of sitting there, just going, "Oh, this guy." And I look over at the parrot, and she's kind of looking at me, going, "Like, what the fuck are we watching?" Like, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, it's just that part has always kind of steered me away from anime personally. But why I like Demon Slayer is because there's not a lot of that in it. Like, so it's kind of it's a lot more kind of action
I,
based and story based and stuff. And
I think the funny thing about that, man, is like, as much as you hear all of that, or that you see all of that in terms of Demon Slayer,
mhm,
to be completely fair, it's very minimal.
yeah,
You have to actively seek shows that are screaming at, or like have people
yeah, yeah,
screaming at each other. Jujutsu Kaisen's not one of them. Like, nobody's screaming at each other ever. It's
yeah,
literally like pretty straightforward. It's 100% canon, like, and it's very short right now. Like, I would highly recommend watching that.
yeah,
Um, that's like amazing, really
yeah.
good. It's on par, if not honestly, it's better than Demon Slayer at this point. Um,
Wow,
it's it's made me sad at times. Um,
yeah,
not cry like the Mugen Train shit. Like, that was fucking rough. Um,
that was
I
cool, bro. Yeah,
I love that movie. It was really
yeah,
good.
yeah. It was good.
Um, And I would say, My Hero Academia, I know a lot of people are shitting on it right now. Like I think there's a niche of people
Mhm.
that that don't really like they don't understand how good that show is. I think it's just because it's dropped off so quickly after
Mhm.
the most recent season. Like we haven't seen anything lately about like a new season being updated yet. It's it's just kind of sitting on hiatus almost. Um
Yeah.
but the show itself, like I know that Katie and I were watching that like pretty religiously. Like every week it would pop up, we'd watch it and we'd just be like, what the fuck? And
Yeah.
it'd be so good. And like
Yeah.
I'm an emotional guy. So I'll
I
tear
I
up. Like,
know. I know.
yeah. Katie, I saw Katie cry like for Demon
You
Slayer, for My
you
Hero
cried more than her?
Academia. Oh, of course.
Yeah? Okay.
100%.
I'd be
Dude,
yeah.
I'm an openly emotional person, but I also am a strong character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I
I know,
I'm
look, we all get those emotional moments watching stuff like as I'd say you would be like more like my girlfriend. I'd probably be more like your girlfriend. Like I find it like it takes a lot for something to break me, like in a movie or a TV show or something like, you know. Like I wouldn't be like, you know, tears rolling down my face and stuff like, but you get like I would get choked up a little bit watching some things. Like
dude.
trying to think
s-
this is us, bro. This is us like was one of those ones where
Oh
they
yeah.
just like perfectly mix the music with these sad moments and it's like they're just trying to get us to cry. Like, you know, it's like they're not just telling sad stories, they're actively trying to break people, like, you know. And it's just like sometimes it will get to you, like, you know, especially stuff with the flashbacks with what's it called? What's his name? Milo, you know, the
Mhm.
dude from Heroes. Like he was just such a great fucking actor in that show. Um, but yeah, sorry, go on, keep talking.
Dude,
Crack the
I
opening
know.
credits. Let's go.
Dude,
No,
I know
Eddie.
that I know that most people weren't really a big fan of Sons of Anarchy, but like honestly, I bawled at the end of it because I was like,
I
fuck, that's it. That's it.
no, I didn't cry at the end of that show, but the Opie scene or Obi was his name,
Oh,
Obi or Opie? Opie, the
yeah.
Opie scene in the prison, bro. That's one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've ever seen on TV. And I sat there and watched that show. I watched it with like my best friend, and the two of us were sitting there, kind of just like having a great day. You know, we were like, "Oh yeah," it's like because we weren't watching it live, but we weren't far behind, so we were catching up. But like it was like a Saturday afternoon. We just got some food in. I'll never forget this. Like, and like the two of us were like chuffed, couldn't wait to watch the episode. And I remember the two of us kind of like just took it into some lunch and stuff. And like when it happened, the two of us just like looked at each other like, what the fuck just happened? Like it was just
Yep.
heartbreaking, bro. I couldn't believe it. And like Charlie Hunnam's acting, like he's banging up against the glass and all, like, and he's just destroyed. Fuck. Oh man. That's actually like pissing me off to think about it now. How fucking annoyed I was. That one destroyed me. Oh, it was so bad. I bawled, says Limey. Yeah. Oh, it was terrible. Such a well done scene though. Like that broke the world, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough,
Yeah.
man.
Man, like I just I look over at my girlfriend all the time. Like she won't be listening to this. It's fine. She won't hear me say this about her. But she I'll always kind of look over to her if anything remotely sad happens in a movie. Like I'm looking over to her and she's like kind of like hiding behind a pillow, like tears in her eyes and stuff. I'm just like, what? Like how are you crying now? Like, you know?
Is it is it raining in here?
Yeah. Who's cutting onions?
Yeah, dude. Like
Yeah.
I remember the scene like in One Piece, like where with
Little
Ace. Oh, London. Dude, like Marineford arc, near the end, we're almost out. Everything's almost like everything's it seems fine. We're done. Luffy got Ace out. We're fine. We're happy. Let's leave.
Yeah.
Ace dies.
Oh no.
Like fucking so much has been done, but Luffy can't fight back because he's just too weak.
Mhm.
He's not strong enough. He can't like he got to the red line, which was like the first half of the Grand Line, like,
Mhm.
so quickly that he didn't have time to really, like, become stronger, and because he had to try to go save Ace, there was nothing he could do against anybody, because they were all using hockey except for him, like, nobody had everybody was fine. He was the only one who was struggling so hard. Finally gets there, and it's like, yeah, it's gonna happen again. Luffy's he's gonna bust out. Ace and them are gonna go. Ace gets he turns into a donut. He gets punched in the fucking chest,
Jesus
punched through
Christ.
the back, fist
Wow.
open in the like fucking, and he's dying, and he's like, "Thank you for loving me."
Oh my God.
And I just start fucking crying because then he's like, and then he's dying with a smile because
Yeah.
he's still happy even though he died. And it's just, and Katie looks at me and it's like, I hate this.
Oh, that's fucking brilliant, dude. Like, look, you know, it's amazing that like content can do that to people emotionally. Like, you know, like imagine like I was watching like the making of like The Last of Us and stuff like that. Like, and you know, when you kind of see the behind the scenes of them like putting all this stuff together, and like there's a part in the documentary for the second game where the creator, Neil Druckmann's like reading out the script and the plot of the story, and when he starts talking about the Joel scene, like the epic Joel scene, like, and everyone's just kind of sitting there, and you know, he's like, "Oh, this is just the beginning, guys." Like, you know, it's like just to have that power to like be able to like make so many people feel an emotion is incredible. Like I
Yeah,
always give props to George Lucas as well. Like, you know, just because it blows my mind that the dude created an entire universe in his head. Like, it's wild. It's wild. Like, so these people who like these writers, these creators, they just have such amazing power to be able
right.
to do that. Like,
And it's crazy how much like people love these characters to the point where it's like once they're taken out, you know, a lot of them are like, why did you do that? And it's like
yeah.
because the story said that it needed to happen.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and it's there, like it's no malice towards anybody. It's just that's what the author felt at the time.
That's most of the time. Sometimes it can be for other
Oh,
reasons, like Han
well,
Solo, for example.
yeah,
Like,
the Han Solo, but like also Jason Todd. If like I remember you
yeah,
explained that with Jason Todd, they made a poll
yeah.
like, does he live or die?
The public voted, and they killed him because they didn't like him. I felt so sorry. I love Jason, like, and yeah, it was just because it was too close to because he was the second Robin. You know, everyone's like, "What the fuck?" Like, Dick Grayson's not Robin anymore. So obviously they weren't gonna like the second guy because everyone loved the original Robin. So then it's like, yeah, they vote in a poll to kill him. Crazy. I actually just got a comic. I haven't read it yet, but I got a comic where it was it's like an alternate telling of that story, but it's the opposite to where, and it's where Jason lives. He never becomes Red Hood, so
Nice.
he survives the tale. I must read it and I'll let you know. But yeah, yeah, Nova, you're right. Nova says that hurt Finto deeply. It did. It did. It did. Absolutely. That was one moment Finto cried. I actually have no problem. I have no problem in admitting comic books have made me cry twice. I have actually shed tears reading a comic book twice in my life. One of them was the final issue of Injustice Part 1, where Superman kills Green Arrow. I actually cried when that happened. Like, I just couldn't, like, it was just soul destroying because as he's dying, he's like looking up, and it's like the way they drew it and everything. Like, I felt like I was there. It was like crazy. Like, it was so well done. And he's looking up, and he's like, he sees like, I don't even think she was there, but he sees a vision of Black Canary, and he's like, you know, like, I'm so sorry, little bird, that I'm leaving you, blah blah blah, like, and just like fades off, and I was just like, I was dying, like, I couldn't believe what I read, like, and then at the very start of Rebirth, they did a storyline where Wally West, the original Wally West, came out of the Speed Force, and he'd been dead in comics, like the real world time. He'd been dead for like 30 years or something, and he just reappears out of the Speed Force, and it's like Barry had forgotten who he was. So like it was very cleverly done because it was like they retconned him out, and they brought a different Wally West in, and he's like a black kid. But then it was like he sees the original Wally, and then it's like as if his memories get jogged and he remembers who he is. And the two of them are like hugging each other and crying and stuff. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I forgot who you are. And all. And I was like, I'm reading, like, just like bawling my eyes out. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, what the fuck? It was just powerful stuff. Because again, like, I just love Wally West. Like, and it was just like, it was such a beautiful reunion of the two of them. Like, it was just amazing. Yeah.
I love it. I love to hear
Yeah.
that.
Oh, it's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, on that note, I think we should end for the week. I'm going to go cry myself to sleep. No, I had a bit of Star Wars news I wanted to talk about, but it's not even important. We can maybe leave it for next week. But I don't even know what's coming up next podcast. Do we know when like X-Men 97 is starting?
No,
I
haven't
don't even
taken a
know,
look.
but I genuinely don't think that there's anything to talk about next week. I'm sure I'll figure some stuff out before then, but right now we are in the unknown. I actually don't know. There's no real movies I want to see. Go on.
March 20th.
Okay, so it's close. So maybe not for next week, but the week after we'll definitely have. Yeah. So the 24th, the podcast on the 24th, we'll be able to talk about X-Men. I'm curious. I might watch the last few episodes to kind of just catch up or whatever, but I don't think
Oh,
I'm
dude,
going to watch the whole thing.
I mean, I started watching the whole series again.
I watched the first like 7 or 8 episodes, but I don't think I'm going to get through the whole series before it comes out. Like, but because I'm rewatching Sopranos with my lady at the moment. She's never seen it before, so she's watching it for the first time. So we're kind of we're very deep into that now. I was literally watching it right before we went live here, so it's great. I love it. Like I love The Sopranos. It's like one of my all-time favorite shows. It's like my parents' favorite show ever. They watch it once a year. Like they love it so much. And I bought every time there's like a new iteration of it on like Blu-ray, DVD, all that sort of stuff. I bought them, every single one of them. So they've got it on Blu-ray now. So they watch it like once a year. Yeah. Incredible. Anyway, look, keep in touch, guys. If you're new to the channel, drop a like. Thank you, everybody who was here live with us. There was a lot of people kind of chilling over on the Twitch as well. If you're listening to us on Twitch or watch us on Twitch, drop a follow. If we could get that channel affiliated, that'd be great. It might help with a couple of subs or something. It might help us pay for the podcast, which would be great. So yeah, look, we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye bye.
Hey, everyone.